Okay, so we're here, and I'm very, very, very happy to tell you guys that we have an amazing guest for you. I'm gonna say this short thing in Spanish. Estoy muy contento, muy ansioso por empezar, perdón, fíjense lo que me pasa, por empezar con esta entrevista maravillosa con una persona que, bueno, si tú eres papá y has estado en algún momento en una situación en la que no has sabido cómo manejar la educación de tus hijos en lo de la escuela, te va a ayudar muchísimo. Es una persona, híjole, con un corazonzote. La conocimos hace algunas semanas en un evento extraordinario y le hemos seguido en estos días para ver su trabajo y te puedo decir que es fuera de lo convencional, además que es una persona lindísima. Y bueno, voy a hablarlo ahorita en inglés. Okay, guys, well, I was just explaining everybody how it's going to work. Let me first say I'm super excited to have Lisa with me and, well, to be with you guys. It's amazing. Hello, Lisa, how are you doing?
Hey, Gustavo, I'm so glad to be here. This is really exciting.
I know, right?
Yeah, because, you know, being in front of your audience is so special for me, just because you attract great people and people who really care about each other and their kids. So I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, absolutely. You're going to love these people. I mean, they're super into it. They're so, like, they take action, which is, I think it's something important, very important.
Yeah.
So, let me just introduce you to Lisa and tell you some little things about her that, well, you're gonna understand why I'm saying what you're saying. But when you think about spending time with your child, there are certain things you love to do, right? Like play and everything. But typically, helping them with their math homeworks, just not that like not that so much fun. I mean, I've seen my sister sometimes enjoying playing with their kids all the time, but when it comes to math, even though, I mean, she has a lot of tools and she works with them in amazing ways, but sometimes there are some moments in which she realizes it's a bigger challenge. So, well, it's an amazing opportunity now with Lisa Hatamoto to have her as a guest, because let me tell you, she is the founder of Inspiring Student Success, an organization that teaches parents how to help their children do better in math in a no-fighting, tear-free zone. As an electrical engineer and manager, Lisa worked for a Silicon Valley high-tech company for 19 years. How do you know? That's amazing. Yeah. She knows math. I'm pretty sure she knows math. Yet Lisa was surprised and frustrated by how difficult it was to help her own child with her math homework. Isn't it amazing? Determined to make sure her daughter learned math well to meet her family's high expectations, Lisa immersed herself in her daughter's school for 12 years, doing the educational research, being mentored by great teachers, and working directly by hundreds of students, parents, and teachers to help them become more successful in math in their lives. I'm just loving this because, I mean, we're talking about somebody that is really well prepared. She knows math. I mean, she knows her business, but still, when it came to children, it was a completely different thing. And I'm excited today. Lisa is going to teach us 3 simple ways to get out of math homework hell. First of all, Lisa, what exactly do you mean by math homework hell?
Well, I think you kind of touched on it a little bit about your sister, who's a wonderful person and has great tools, can totally relate to her child. But when it came to math, it was like, you know, not quite the right thing. Something was a little bit off. And so, you know, I live here in California in Silicon Valley, the heart of the high-tech hub. And you would think that everybody around here would be pretty math savvy and everything. But when I talk to parents here and I talk to parents like all over the world, it's the same story. The same story. So whether you knew math or not, you know, the story goes something like this. Okay. So I'm going to tell you about my client, a client that I had. She and her daughter were spending 2 hours a day doing homework. Okay. And in particular, they were getting really stuck. Her child was bringing home a lot of math word problems, because in the US, there's this big trend to try to get kids to like know more real life math scenarios. So they give them a lot of word problems. Do you remember doing word problems, you know, when you were a kid?
Oh, yeah.
And for most of us, it was not our favorite thing, right? So
absolutely not.
you're like, do you feel like you're getting goosebumps and you're sort of like, oh, I don't want to do any math problems. I don't want to. Do you feel like that?
You know, this is the thing. I was pretty good at math, and still I didn't like it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
something.
Yeah, see, that's interesting too. I get a lot of that reaction too by some of the parents. And so imagine that now you have to help your kid with this, and you're not that enthusiastic either, but you know you have to do it. And so here is this client of mine. They're spending 2 hours a day doing homework. Math is really not going well. The child is behind in grade level math, and she is not getting it. Her mother is there saying, "This is how you do it," and then the frustration goes up and she's saying, why don't you get it? We've done it 3 times already. And then it slips out and she yells at her child. And then the tears start flowing for either one or both of them, you know, and then this child would often be sick and she wouldn't be able to go to school. She'd physically be sick. It was causing more distress in the family because now the mother and father are arguing over what's the best way to help the child. Is it more discipline, more flashcards, or is it more nurturing, or is it a different school, or is it different tutors, or is it, you know, what is it? What's going to really help? And they're arguing over their approaches. And in the meantime, you've got grandparents who also want and believe that, hey, you should do really well in math because math is your future. You know, you can't get to those great jobs without, you know, the engineering, the doctors, you know, the scientists, those solid careers. You can't do that without math. And so there's this family pressure of, oh, this child is not going to make it. And now, and the school sending you messages about your daughter's behind, you know, got to do something about it. And now everybody's worried about this child. And everybody's thinking, oh, maybe she's just not cut out. Maybe she just isn't good enough to have, you know, a larger career, reach her dreams. So that's what that math homework held. It's that feeling of maybe as a parent, there's some guilt that maybe you're not doing as much as you can for a child. You love your child, you want the best, but you're really struggling to try to figure that out. And there's so much pressure. And there's so much pressure around math. Because, you know, if you don't meet your grade, if you don't get those grades, you can't go on, right? So this, at that point, that's when you just want that daily drama just to stop. You just want your child to get their homework done and just be good at it. You're just looking for that relief. Oh, you know?
That does sound like, you know, I mean, as we were talking, it's something that I saw with my friends back then when we were in school. So many of them, they were super smart, and still they felt like they were not smart enough because they were not good at math. And they would, like, people would be pointing at them because they had these low grades, and they just grew up like with low self-esteem, thinking they were not able to perform in many other areas. Even, I mean, so they're not good at math, but they kind of related to other fields. So I mean, it's a big deal. So how long do parents have to suffer through this? Is it just a short phase that their kids will grow out of it quickly, even if they don't do anything about it? Like,
yeah, I mean, exactly. Just like we were talking about, you know, and you've seen it as in your friends as they've grown up to be adults, right? So this sort of homework hell comes and it goes. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse, but it particularly seems to happen around second grade, which is about 7 years old or so. And then it happens again just before high school when everybody feels like there's more pressure because you're running out of time. And then definitely in high school, it hits big time. If you haven't figured out how to handle this, how to support your child in this way to really get them going, if it hits your child in high school, it's very stressful. And because now you're running out of time, they're running out of time. So to learn that math and do it well before they're actually really adults. So you know, like we said, you know, I'm an engineer, so I kind of know the math. I thought I did, but I really didn't when it came to actually helping my child. And if you know the math or you don't, it's the same. You need to have new parenting skills. This is a different kind of parenting skill than what maybe you're used to, because this is around that really hard, concrete topic of math. So it's a different set of skills that you need to have. And the key is that you have to have your child take ownership of their own learning. which is a little bit different than what we typically do. Because if they don't take ownership of their own learning, then this math thing comes back to bite them over and over and over again as you try to push them or pull them through the math. It's different. It's a dynamic different. So, but the good news is, so while it's really uncomfortable, it's actually a huge opportunity for us as parents to try to be able to work out those really difficult problems with our kids, so that way, when other challenging problems show up, we've got a way to relate to each other, to help each other through it. It's this huge opportunity that we have, you know, when we're in this position. But hey, what I learned is you don't have to go through it alone. So that's a good thing. But now I got to tell you though, what happens when you are able to get together with your kid and support them in a way where they take that ownership, because I've gone through this now with not only my daughter, who's now 16, but with other kids in the school where I was working and helping, and working with other parents too. And so let me tell you a little bit about one of my students, Olivia, who's now gone on a little bit, and she's now a second year in high school. So she did this when she was younger. And so this is what I asked her, hey, you know, looking back at your early math years, you know, how do you think it helped you? And let's see, and this is what she says. She told me that school didn't only teach me math, but it also taught me how to learn. You can't just hand me a formula, because then it's not going to make sense to me and it's not going to stick. So right there, that's the kind of kid that we're trying to raise. One that's like not satisfied just to know the formula, but she's like internally driven to kind of know more about the math, like how it works, why it works. And then she won't give up until she figures it out. Now that's the kind of kid that we want to have. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, as they say, I was reading not long ago, kids are curious by nature. I mean, they're the perfect scientists, even like since they're small, they're asking questions and they're intrigued by everything. And numbers shouldn't be the exception. I mean, they're asking about numbers and math and everything when they're kids. But then there's this process, usually by like many teachers in school, when they don't know that, they kind of, I don't know, like they destroy the journey and they ruin it for everybody. Like they don't make it interesting. So the person who is already, I mean, a little person, the children, they're already interested in learning and in knowing why, as you were saying. And so,
yeah.
But here's this question, like many families, both parents are working and time is limited, you know, and we want our time with kids to be special. Is this something that a busy parent can easily do? So,
Yeah.
So often it seems like helping our children with math homework can really add stress to I mean, I've seen it, like you want it to be special, but it turns out to be instead of something nice, like hell, as you were saying.
Yeah, you know, I can totally relate to that, because, you know, I was an engineer for 19 years, and, you know, here in Silicon Valley, you know, the work hours are not the 40-hour work weeks, and more like the 50-hour averages and more oftentimes. And I was helping out my daughter's school and managing the household. So yeah, so I understand that whole busy parent thing and trying to support your family. And I love that you mentioned that natural curiosity in kids, because that's part of the secret. That's part of the formula here that we have, which is trying to bring more of that curiosity back into math in a subject that seems so much like kill and drill. You know, so much like, you know, just do the problem, just get to the right answer. And what we're doing as parents is trying to bring that back in. And so the tips I'm going to share with you are really simple. They're really simple, and they really help to make time you spend with your child much more meaningful and worthwhile for both your child and you. Much more fun, more relaxed, more enjoyable. So it's very doable.
I can't wait to hear more.
Okay, so hey, let's dive into those 3 ways to get out of math homework hell. How's that?
Perfect.
Okay.
Let's start.
Okay, great. So I want to let you know that this is a piece of my system that I've developed to help parents out. And so this is only one small piece of it. And what I'm going to do is, because we've got limited time, I'm going to try to teach as much as I can with you today. And then at the end, we'll talk about how everybody on the call can get some more information later. Does that sound good?
Can you repeat that last part? Because there was
sure, no problem. Yeah, so I was going to say that, what we'll do is we'll do as much as we can with the time that we have. And then I'll give everybody a way so that they can learn a little bit more and take it further if they want to at the end.
Oh, awesome. Perfect.
Okay, great. All right, so let's dive in. So the first way out of the 3 ways I'm going to teach you is, here's the question I'm going to ask you. Does your child love their organized study space? That's the question I'm going to ask you. Okay, so when you think about this, here's what I think about. Think about where they're currently doing their homework. Is it a kitchen table? Is it up in their room by themselves? Where are they at? Okay? Because typically when you've got the younger children, or as they even get older and you're still helping them with their homework, you need some place to be sort of accessible for both of you. But still there's a balance here, trying to figure out some place that they can actually work. So I want to get most busy parents out of this mindset of what I call Harry Potter under the stairs syndrome. So you remember the Harry Potter series, books and movies? Did you know Harry? Okay, so Harry Potter, when he was living in his old house, they put him underneath the staircase, in the cupboard, in a way. And when you feel like you're in the cupboard, you know that you're not important. You know that you're being hidden away. You get this feeling you're not that important in this family if you're being shoved under the stairs. So just like your child's space where they're studying, is it a place that is inviting for them, that's important for them, where it conveys that they're important? Let me tell you, here's what happened. Okay, when I was working with my young child, she was, and my daughter, and she was pretty young, we would have her do homework in the living room, on the coffee table. Because at the same time, I could be making dinner. At the same time, she was studying. But we also had the TV right in front of her too, which is not a good way, And the coffee table was cluttered with other magazines and junk that we have because we are using it as a family space too. So she would have to kind of clear out the clutter, and then she would have to try to get my attention as I ran back and forth trying to stir up something on the stove or cut up some vegetables, and then go back to help her and go back and forth. Now, do you feel like she thought she was important? If she was wedged between the junk and between my time, between trying to get ready for dinner? No.
Okay.
Right? So what you want to do is you want to say, hey, this is important. My child's important. Math is important to do. Let's set up some clear space. So we kind of cleared off another area in our living room, which is much more of a desk, and set up her space, and asked her, hey, what do you need? What do you want to make this space inviting for you? And she loves these little figurines, so she has that, and she has a stuffed animal. And she brought that in to help her feel comfortable, and it was much better. And I slowed down, and I realized to spend the time. So that's the first thing, is having that organization space that's clutter-free. The materials are around. You make it a priority. You make her a priority. So that's the first way. Okay, then let me give this. So let me give the second way. I'm just move on to the second way. So the second way to get out of that math homework hell is you have to ask yourself, what time is it? Just want to ask, what time is it? And because if you are a child and you don't like math, when is the best time you're going to be doing math? You're going to sit down and you're going to do the homework you like first, which if it's not math, is going to get pushed way to the end. And so, right? Can you relate to that? Right?
Yeah, I just remember everything. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, right. And so typically what happens is then you're getting asked by your child to come help with math homework on a particular problem. And it's a problem, let's say it's algebra, and you're straining your brain to figure out, now, what did I remember from 8th grade algebra? And it is now close to bedtime. Bedtime for you, bedtime for the kid, and you're tired, you're exhausted, they're exhausted. You're not in a position to really be helpful and patient if everyone's exhausted and tired. You have to realize that math is a hard subject. It takes a lot of logical thinking, a lot of analysis. It is problem solving. That's the whole point. It's problem solving. So, so you want to help your child to do your math homework first, when your brain is fresher. It's all about that. Even though you may not like it as much, it does need the attention. It does need the brain power. So you want to move it up. Okay. So, and So by the way, so these 2 ways plus some other tips that are going to be in that free gift that I have for your parents too, that we'll talk about at the end. So they can kind of relax and listen to this.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. And they're going to be very happy. And that sounds so smart, Lisa. I mean, actually, the second one, I was just thinking that it's not going to only just help with math, but it will create high performers because they will learn to just start their days in a more focused way with more energy, and it makes so much sense. I mean, it took me a while these last years to learn a couple of strategies that you're mentioning here. I mean, you're teaching them to kids, which is I think it's not going to be only about math, but create amazing people.
Yeah, that's an awesome insight that you had. Yeah. When your brain is fresher, do those harder things, do those more challenging things first and early, whether it's math or whether it's something else. But that's what I love this discussion, because this is so much more than math. This is about how do you solve those hard problems in life, and you're teaching your kids that.
But there's this question, does it always work? I mean, is there anything that can make this all fall apart? Because, I mean, I always like to know these other parts, like how to use it in a very proper way. But I mean,
yeah, I'm so glad you're asking that question, because that's the third way we're going to talk about, the third way to get out of this math homework hell. And I have to tell you, by the way, these pieces are so essential that if you do not get these 3 pieces down, everything else you do is going to give you minimal returns, minimal results. You have to have these 3 pieces. And this third piece is super important, and this could really trip you up. And this is the question I have to ask you as a parent, which is, have you taken care of your own needs first so that you can be patient and be your child's loving learning partner? Right? Because it's sort of that old saying, that when you get into the airplane and the flight attendant says, put your own oxygen mask on first before assisting your child. It's that kind of thing, because, right? Because, here's the end of the day. We've been busy. Both of us, we're working. Your child's been out doing school all day and doing their after school activities and things. You're helping your spouse. You've got your extended family. Your household, you've got to be running things. And we usually place ourselves last on the list to take care of, usually. Everybody else cares, right? And then we're starting to run around, and a lot of us think we're great multitaskers. Aren't you a great multitasker? I think you are.
Well, I've been teaching myself since I would say 2 years ago how to focus, as I was telling you, and I used to love, and because I'm pretty good at listening to 3-4 conversations and actually pay attention to them. But now I just realize how better I perform when I just do one. So
wow, yeah. See, you really noticed it, but a lot of us who are so frantic that we're so busy, we don't recognize that we're not as good at 3 conversations at one time, right? And particularly when you're in that position, and if you're slightly anxious and your child is falling behind in math, that anxiety comes out more. You can't control it because you're just always on the go, and it comes out more, right? And oh my gosh. And my daughter recently said to some friends, which I overheard, and we've been working on this. And by the way, my daughter, it was kind of a mess before, and I figured out my daughter's doing well now. She's doing great now. But I overheard her tell a friend that, when she was young, she wasn't very good at math. And she wasn't very good because she knew this because mom, me, was always having to help her so much. And I thought, oh my gosh, what she felt was my anxiety about her and her math was coming out, and she felt like she wasn't very good. So here I was trying to help her build up her self-esteem and her confidence, and was going the opposite way. And it's all because I was so busy, and I didn't realize this, and I wasn't paying attention, right? So the exercise that when I work with parents now to help kind of get them calm and centered and realize what they're doing a little more, it's just simply to notice. It's simply just to notice that when their child asks them for help, how are they feeling? And then it's super simple, right? Just check how are you feeling? And then what we do is you look for patterns over time. So it's not, I'm not going to tell you right away to change something. We're looking for those patterns. We're looking for those things that are those cornerstone habits. A cornerstone habit is one that, you know, where you change one thing and it's got a ripple effect so that way it increases, got triple fold, you know, you've got more benefits. It's kind of like saying, you know, I'm running ragged at the end of the day. Well, what if I go to bed earlier the night before? You know, what if I go to bed not at midnight, but maybe I go to bed at 11, or not at 11, maybe 10, maybe just get a little more sleep. That's a cornerstone, you know, habit you could change that has a ripple effect that makes everything better later. Something like that. Anyway, anyway, but these are some of the basics there. And the good news is that, you know, these are just small changes you can start to make and make a big difference.
Oh, Lisa, thank you for sharing these important missing pieces for math success. I mean, probably many people who are watching this now are thinking to themselves, oh God, why didn't my mother or my father knew that when they were, I mean, when I was a kid, no? Now, can you please tell us, what do you think is the most important thing we need to know for the long-term math success for kids?
Oh, yeah. This is one that I'm hoping that I bet your audience will get this. They will get this, okay? So you have to ask yourself, what is the purpose of math? You know, most of us think that when we're sitting down helping our kids with math, it's to help the kids get to that right answer, that perfect answer the first time. You know, you think of doing a math problem, it's like you just try to get your kid right to the answer. But if you step back, math is all about the art of problem solving. It's about really learning the process of how to solve a math problem. A math problem is actually model life. That's where it comes from. And so when we're working with our kids, our real intention, our real goal is not necessarily just to give them the solution to that exact problem they're working on, but to help them to understand how to solve the problems themselves. It's a process issue, not an answer issue. It's different. And it is hard because math is there to give us problems in our life, to challenge ourselves. So you have to look at it that you have to welcome problems in your life. That's what you're doing with math. You're not pushing it aside, pushing away. It's actually there to help you, to teach you how to solve problems later in life, that when we can't push those problems away. And it is a little bit hard, and it does make you and your child think. So that's where a lot of discomfort comes from, because you just want to get it done. But it does make you think. So, and the parents, so the parents that I work with and the kids I've seen too, once we understand there's this sort of shift in the way we think about it, then they see that it's so cool to watch their child learn the math, learn how to solve their own problems, and then the grades and scores increase. So we don't go, so a lot of people go right for the score first, which is sort of like cramming for the test. And what we do is say, we're going to go for the deep learning, the how and the why of the math, and we get the kid engaged, and then the grades and scores go up for the long run, not just for a short burst, for a long run. And for some kids, some parents, this is a really natural thing. They automatically just do this naturally, but I was not one of those natural people, natural parents on that. You know, I came from, hey, I thought I knew math, I should be able to teach it. I didn't get it. And so it took me 12 years to figure this out by, you know, working with my daughter, having those frustrations, going through all those trial and errors. I'd gone through all kinds of math methods, all kinds of tutoring, all kinds of different workbooks. I've gone through lots and lots of trial and error. Man, I don't want your parents to go through this. They don't have 12 years to spend, you know, figuring this out, you know, because that's one thing. Is like, I really, really love being with my daughter now. And I'm kind of excited when there is a harder problem, a life problem to solve, because we've got this really close connection that we can work through it together, even though it's really kind of uncomfortable and we might get mad at each other, but we can work through it. It's really cool. And that's what I want for your parents. And, but I don't want them to spend 12 years trying to figure it out. There's no way, you know, no way, no way, no way. And the other thing, I look back and I go, you how much further along she would be if I knew back then, you know, what I know now, right? How much further would she be going for it? How much further would she be out there, you know, really excelling in life and really passionate about life and solving things?
But the good thing is you already found this system. That brings me this question, like, you know, I'm just thinking about like a Mexican way to teach math. I'm not so sure about like Latin America, the rest of the countries, Spain, but I'm probably thinking they kind of have the same situation. But here it hasn't really changed that much. I mean, I see children now learning math, and it hasn't really changed the traditional way they teach it with the way they were teaching it back then. And I mean, even with my mother, she used to tell me how she used to learn math and how she taught me. I mean, they taught me in school. She helped me every now and then. And then now I see kids, and it hasn't really changed. What do you think, and why do you think it's important for people here? I mean, Latin America, Spain, and all these Hispanic, Spanish-speaking people. Why do you think it's important for them to understand that there's a benefit, and maybe, I mean, I want you to tell them why is it important to learn these new methods and to actualize their ideas and their concepts. And not only parents, let me tell you, because we have so many guests, like teachers from so many different schools all over Latin America and Spain. Well, I have to say them both, but like so many schools and so many teachers are watching us right now. So what would you say about that?
Yeah, so I'm so glad you asked, because we have the same thing here too. A lot of parents go, well, I learned math, you know, my way, and I turned out okay, so it should be good enough for my kids, you know. They say that all the time. And yeah, it might work. It might work. So I've spent 12 years inside my daughter's school and inside classrooms, and I'm out in other classrooms now too. And I'll tell you what I see inside the classroom, in a math classroom. Let me tell you about I'll say there's 4 types of kids that I see to give you perspective on this. Okay, so which is so there's the first kid that is doing okay. You know, that hopefully they like and enjoy math. They're there kind of asking the questions. They want to know a little more about why that works. They'll be the one going, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? You know, those are the cool kids you go, wow, that kid's going to make it. You get this feeling, and you love talking to this kid in class because they're excited, they're engaged. That's the kind of kids that we want. But nowadays, there's a very few kids like that. They're very rare. You usually see 1 or 2 if you're lucky. Right? But that's what we want for our kids. Okay, that's where we're going. So that's one type of kid. Okay. Oh, and by the way, that kid is not necessarily the top grade scorer in the class, too. I have to mention that to you. It's interesting because they're going to be the ones who want to try, and sometimes they'll get it wrong, and that's okay because they're going to learn. So they're not going to be perfect. So that's other interesting to know. But they're going to be. You're going to get this feeling. They're going to make it. They're going to. You know, you've got this feeling. Okay. The second type of kid that I see is what I'll call the good girl, good boy syndrome kid. This is the kid who is usually very quiet. Usually you can tell they want to be smaller. They're trying to fly under the radar. They usually do just enough to try not to be really noticed as much. But oftentimes they're doing this because they don't want to be seen as making any mistakes. And to learn, you need to try, and you need to sometimes make mistakes to get something back out of it. And they're really trying to hide. They're very afraid. And so that's a big thing that I see in a lot of classrooms now these days, is really more of this type of kid, because of this math structure and the teaching that we have in a lot of classrooms, in very traditional classrooms. Like they're quiet. They want to just be, you know, just let me get through this period. Let me just get through the next hour, kind of thing. You know, without little drama as possible. Okay, that's not good. That's not good if you're just trying to skate by. Okay, the third type of child that I see in the classroom is one who is very anxious and really anxious about math or the math class. They're feeling very anxious, and it usually shows up in their emotions and their physical body. So I see this child as being sick a lot, oftentimes, or that they go to the bathroom a lot. I've seen this happen a lot. Particularly, I remember seeing a particular boy I'm thinking about. You know, he would come in, and every time we would start getting into the math lesson, he would immediately need to go to the bathroom. Every time. And we thought, well, what is this? What's this going on? And is this? And it was really a physiological issue that he was so anxious, he was so uncomfortable with showing up. And so that's what we see. So that's not good either, because you miss a lot. It's that self-fulfilling fear. You fear math, and then now you miss math, and now you get further and further behind. And so there's that. So you don't want that either. And then the fourth type of kid that I see in the class is what I'll call the rebel. This is usually the one who is talking out of turn a lot, very social typically, kind of knows the social scene, knows how to maneuver around, knows how to get things done, but he's not doing the work himself oftentimes, and oftentimes gets sent to the principal office, causes trouble, and you're laughing. I wonder if you know somebody like that. Right? But this is a defense mechanism oftentimes, that they are not comfortable with math. They don't feel smart enough. They don't feel like they belong. And they're doing this to try to find a place in the class that they can feel some control, that they can feel respected. But it's really a defense mechanism, because when they come down to it, they're not really learning the math either. They're kind of avoiding it. So you know, so yeah, does that ring any bells? Do you remember these kind of kids in school? You know?
All of them. When you were describing that, you know, I could totally see each of my friends, and I mean all the schoolmates' faces in one of those four categories. Like, I even went through a couple of them, because when I was in elementary school, I mean, grammar school was. I was like, it was kind of a breeze to me, math. But then when I went to high school, I didn't realize how like big importance it had, like the emotional part. So I was doing terrible at math. Funny thing, in elementary, it was so easy, and I was really good, and still I was one of the worst in class. But I had these issues related to that, because I really didn't like. I wanted to like find who I was, and you know, you're a teenager, and well, math was my way of escaping. So also, my brother had a terrible math experience as a kid. I remember, because for me it was just a phase, like 1 year I would say, or two maybe. But with my brother, it was like this challenging moment. But I always thought that was just the way kids are, you know.
Yeah.
It's so important that we change this.
Yeah. Well, since a lot of us take it for granted that, oh, that's exactly it. That's just the way it is. You know, why change it? You know, you're going to have these people who know math, and these majority of people who don't know math, because that's a majority of the classroom is like that. And that's not okay anymore. That is not, because the reason why is that, you know, the world is getting so much more globally interconnected. It's so much more complex, right? The problems that we face today are so much more difficult. It involves so many different perspectives and people working together on it. So we no longer have that luxury of wasting a single child by saying, oh, you don't get math, that's okay. You can just do some sort of other job, some sort of career, something that doesn't involve problem solving, that doesn't involve other people. I mean, you no longer can do that. We cannot do that. You know, we need kids who actually can think critically, you know, can solve problems in everyday life, in their jobs, just in everything. So we need those kids, you know, for our long-term future as well as theirs. But let's look at more particularly what happens to those individuals who have those kind of experiences where, you know, math is taught every day. So imagine you go into this classroom, just like you go into, like, this is your child's job every day, and you feel terrible. You're feeling scared or anxious, or, you know, you're fearing that it's just, you don't want to be found out, you know, you don't want to make some mistakes, somebody's judging you, because, by the way, math teaching is so judgmental. You get marked right or wrong on every single problem, you know, so it's very judgmental. And once you start feeling that way, and it's day in and day out, what happens is there's sort of a stages of what happens to you, which is the first thing that happens is you start saying things like, well, I'm not very good at math. I'm just not a math person. You sort of personalize it. Oh, I'm not very good at all at these challenges. I'm not very good at, you just start saying it's all your fault. That this is not good. You just can't do it. And then from there, then it becomes all a part of your entire life. You start looking at it like, oh, I'm not very good at math, so therefore I'm not very good at science, or I'm not very good at really understanding money, or I'm not very good at, right? It starts happening over and over again. You start seeing it all in your life. I'm not very good at those hard challenges or things that make me feel uncomfortable. And then there's a third phase, which you really want to avoid your child getting into in this whole process, which is your child now starts feeling it's permanent. I was never very good at math, so I'm never very good at money, so that's why I'm bankrupt 7 times over. Never, right? It starts being totally in your entire life. You start repeating these stories to yourself over and over and over. I mean, when I meet a lot of adults, and I say, oh, yes, I help parents and children with their math, I get these reactions of, oh, I'm not a very good math person. And then digging into it, I hear such sad stories. I feel for the person where they say, my dad was a math professor and he tried to help me and I just didn't get it and I felt so stupid, and he tried and tried and tried. He really tried and I felt really bad for him. And so then when I went to college, I avoided any classes that had math in it. You know what happens when you start avoiding classes in college with math? That's like, half or 3/4 of the classes or something, and then you start honing in your career choices. And this woman I was talking to, who's a good friend, and she just says, it really limited my career. It really has limited my life trajectory now, and I really wish I had done it differently, because now she's on a particular path, and she sees how much though she has cut out choices in her life to get to this point where she's done. And we can't do that for our kids. We need all our kids to have their talents, the full basic talents, whatever their talents are, come out in full force, because we need that for the world. And math is just a tool. It's just a tool. So we need to get our kids past that,
Wow. Wow, Lisa. I never realized how important it is for our children to learn math as a way to build up their resilience for their whole life. I mean, I help people, as I was telling you back in Palm Springs. I teach people and help them when they're facing crisis, or also the other group I help. I work with people in their high performance and achieving like really big goals and dreams. But funny thing is, you mentioned twice, or no, not twice, like specific words I use, but so many of those ingredients, you could even avoid them if you started with children. So that's amazing. I mean, so many people just grow up and then they feel they don't deserve, so they think they're not good enough. They think they lack this and they cannot do that, because when they were children, they were told so many times, you cannot do this, especially in math, because that's a core, like the essentials of the school. And so many of them, they have told me so many times, they are not good learners, they are not good for this and that and that. And the root can always be like, and you're just giving it like, imagine how many people, how many extraordinary people are missing their cause just because they didn't like the structure that you have right now. Can you imagine a new generation of really smart and happy math kid will look like?
Yeah. Well, you know what? If we have this huge possibility of where we actually teach kids these skills early on, and they're ferocious, where they're not afraid to continue to try and figure things out for themselves. Well, sorry, you might not have a job in the future because of these kids, but these kids will be awesome, and the future is really awesome, because when I talk to these kids, they are so interesting. They're so passionate. Nothing's going to hold them back, and they've got the tools. When parents are able to actually start helping them and coaching them essentially to have these sort of skills, they just take off, and you'll see it and you feel it. And life is so much easier, so much fun. And so remember that client I was describing to you at the very beginning, the one that was spending 2 hours a day on homework, and And I'm not actually sure if I mentioned this to you, but that child, by the way, that we were really concerned about, she was 7 years old. I don't know if I told you that.
No.
Yeah. So you know, can imagine that, you know, everybody around her was thinking that her world was shutting down already, that she was going to have limited choices at 7 years old.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Shocker.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I think but now what happens is that, so this particular client, her family and her daughter is so much more better off. Oh my gosh. It's so much more relaxing. They enjoy being around each other. They now see math as just what it is. It's just simply a math problem with some challenges just to continue to learn. But the key thing is that her daughter now looks at it with a little more confidence, and that she's not afraid to try, because that's the big thing. You've got to kind of try to make some headway, and she's okay just to go from where she's at and take those next steps, which is what it is. And it's so cool because she's now on her way. You know, she's gaining momentum, and you can kind of see that, you know, it's going to work out well. You know, she's picking up that speed and momentum, and mom is so much more happy. She's so much proud. She's very proud to see her daughter learning, and believes her daughter now can learn. The disagreements, you know, between mom and dad are down. The grandparents are now on board also. So you're getting much more family support. Everybody's looking at the child differently. You know, the daughter's doing really well. And so I love it that, you know, mom has told me that this whole process has totally, literally changed their family life for the better, for good. I mean, it's been substantial. So it is totally possible for, you know, for this to be happening in households all around the world, where kids are learning math well, and it's without that stress and without the drama, you know. But you know, but it takes some caring parents who are like willing, though, that they're really willing to be that loving learning partner for their child, and to learn some of these new skills, to learn a new way to look at math in a different way of what it can really do for your child. And it's and you know, and I love helping parents who are open to that. I just love that.
Lisa, you have shared such practical and valuable information with us today. I know this is going to help a lot of parents and kids with their math. I mean, kids are going to love it because, let's face it, everything that can help them learn easier and with less stress. Thank you so much. And I understand that you also have a free gift for us today. Will you please tell us more about your free gift?
Sure. So the 3 tips that we gave today, the 3 ways to get out of that math homework hell, well, actually, that's part of my gift to everybody here, which you can find at, if you go to the website, www.inspiringstudentsuccess.com/5 math prep steps. So that's www.inspiringstudentsuccess.com/5 math prep steps. And what this is that those tips today were part of a 5 math prep steps, which is a checklist. It's a checklist to ease everyday math homework brain strain. That's what I call it. So you're going to ease the brain strain when doing the math homework. And there's 5 things you can look at, kind of a checklist, to see if you can set yourself up and your child up for more math success as a foundation, just so you can, you know, not only have those math meltdowns. You know, we want to avoid those kind of things for your child or you. So again, that's www.inspiringstudentsuccess.com/5 math prep steps.
So thank you, Lisa, for this generous gift, and I think it helps so many parents and kids. And I encourage everybody to listen to these free gifts right now. Don't worry, Lisa, we are gonna be sending everybody the link. Well, it's www.inspiringstudentsuccess.com/5 math prep steps. But still, we are gonna make sure everybody gets it. We're gonna put it here in the bar, and also we're gonna send it in the email so that there's no excuse. We want everybody to be able to have it because they're amazing tools. And I mean, seriously, it just takes like a little bit of commitment for a parent to decide that there are better tools out there, and it's not that hard. You made the homework for them. It was like you made sure it was possible not only for you and your kid, but for everybody else to have something. So many people don't realize how important it is, and I want to make sure. And really, really, I work with, I mean, grown-ups every day, and I listen to their stories. And you have no idea how important it is for children to be confident. It's not just because you want them to excel in math. Maybe a parent is right now watching us and he's saying, it's okay. I don't want my kid to be perfect in math, but it's not about that, right? It's
Right,
like,
exactly.
it's about children, healthy children, emotionally healthy, which find themselves in positions where they can say yes to life. They're not afraid. They say, I have the tools. I know, as you said, math's about solving problems. And if you give them confidence in solving problems, imagine how many opportunities they're going to have in their lives. But there is this challenge I am right now having for you, because you already have the whole thing in English. But there are like a bunch of people here. I mean, many people, many of our parents here, they speak English. But there are some that they don't actually speak it right now. So how about challenging you to maybe, I don't know, probably in the next year you have also subtitles in your trainings. I'm gonna make sure to give you options. If you're up to the challenge, people are gonna love it. I mean, Latin American public, and I mean so many Spanish speakers in the US as well. They're gonna love to have it in Spanish as well. So what
Oh,
do you think
awesome.
about that?
Oh, that would be awesome. That would be really cool. I'm so glad to be involved with you because you've just expanded my vision.
You were
I
not
love
expecting
it.
that.
I love it. Oh, I love that idea. That would be awesome because definitely, I have to tell you, when I go and visit schools, I look at where the big up and comers are at. The kids are, and the
Mhm.
kids who have the greatest potential that I see are the ones who actually right now are more Spanish speaking. The ones
Oh,
I'm
really?
considering, yeah, they're the ones who are actually more open. They're more open to learning. And that's what it really is. It's all about openness and willingness to learn and learn in a new way. So I'm excited. That would be really cool. So,
Lisa, you have no idea how happy we are right now, because you're giving so many people new possibilities. That's the word I would use. Because instead of seeing math as a subject, a boring subject, difficult one in schools, with your training, with your system, you're creating new possibilities for children and for parents to have happy, smart, and able, I mean, children to face any kind of situations, and they will face them in a happy way, confident enough to solve them.
yeah, and that's what we want. That's what we want for our parents. And that's what I love working with parents on, because when parents see that happening in their child, the parents get so much more inspired themselves too. And so it really helps to heal the family. But it's really a lot about the kids and the potential for their kids to have. And it does show up, and it's not just about the self-esteem. Self-esteem and confidence is a huge piece, but it actually shows up in the real world. Their grades go up, they excel in not just math, but in other things too. And that's what we want to
Absolutely.
see, and everybody's happy. So it's beautiful.
Oh, I'm so happy for that, and thank you for both your time, giving us this talk, and also for the gifts, the magnificent gifts. And I would say goodbye, because we're keeping in touch, but also I want people to keep in touch with you and to just know that this is the first step. If they really, really commit themselves to help their kids expand their horizons, this is just like the first step. And I mean, they have these free gifts you're going to give them, so they'll keep in touch with you, and the communication will still be on. So I'm so grateful for you, and thank you for everything, your time, your gifts, and this amazing energy. I have to say, we were speaking before starting this, you have this amazing energy.
Well, so do you. So, hey, I love hanging out with you on Google Hangout, and I think this is awesome. And I'm like so excited to be with your people because, like I said, I think you attract great people and people who are action takers, and we're gonna make a huge difference. We're making a huge difference in the world.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you guys. I'm gonna speak a little bit in Spanish. Muchísimas gracias. Cambio ahora en español. Muchísimas gracias por estar aquí presentes. Recuerda que Lisa te tiene unos regalos impresionantes, muy sencillos de hacer, pero con mucha contundencia, con unos resultados extraordinarios. Créeme, ha ayudado a gente a lograr cosas fuera de serie y vaya, nada más estás a un clic. Si todavía no hablas inglés, ya le pusimos el reto a Lisa para que traduzca en español y próximamente puedas aprender tú también. ¿Cómo la ves? Es algo extraordinario, ¿no? Bueno, yo me despido por hoy. Muchísimas gracias a todos. Lisa, have an extraordinary weekend. Thank you for everything. And everybody else, bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.